So, WandaVision.
Yeah, WandaVision.
Is it going in the direction that you thought it would after seeing the first episode or two?
The first episode or two, I thought, is this some kind of weird parody? Because I'm not digging it. I mean, you got just a mild flash of seriousness in the first. Okay, obviously spoilers here on out. You haven't seen any of it, have you?
No, I'm up to date.
Okay, cool. So the first two episodes, that one scene at the dinner table with
Hmm.
the guy starts choking, and then she like
Right.
turns and like says save him. I'm like, whoa, okay, tonal shift, cool. And then it
Yep.
goes right back into
Hmm.
I Love Lucy mode. And I'm like, oh, okay. And the second,
I don't think the second one was the second one I Love Lucy, because the first one I thought was more I Love Lucy.
was it?
Yeah, the second one I thought was more
It went to color in the second one, right?
more
Brady Bunch.
the second one I thought was more Bewitched.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
third one was definitely Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I liked the Malcolm in the Middle one. That was kind of fun. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
Even the like the pseudo ska theme song, which I was like, okay, you got me there.
Hmm. But yeah, I was with you. Like for the first, yeah, I mean, for the first two episodes in their entirety, I was just cocking my head to the side. Oh, where are they going with this?
Yeah,
They're building to something. They're
they,
setting a base, which is good.
yeah, absolutely. They took their time and they established, this
Can't
is
just jump right into it now.
no, you can't. I mean, they even had like what was it, the talent show at the city park or something like that. I mean, like such a campy sitcom, plot device.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, we finally got to see outside of is it Eastview? Is that what it's called?
I think the original city is Eastview.
Westview. Yeah.
And yeah, so Eastview is like disappeared off the map, and now Westview is there. So, why ever, Wanda's, did she do that consciously? Did she do that subconsciously?
I don't know, maybe she's looking the other direction, so it's not facing east or something. I don't know.
Because she is definitely warping reality
Yeah.
at a level that we haven't seen before.
No, not permanent changes, not like that. Like even with Thanos, with did his stuff with like in Infinity War, and was it in Game Two? No, when he warped reality in Infinity War, when he left, the changes reverted. Like
Right.
when he like when he hit the Guardians on Nowhere, and when he changed
Right. How he changed the form of
Yeah.
Drax and Mantis,
exactly, yeah.
but they slowly went back after he left. So here's a theory. Wanda and Pietro were given their abilities
Let's go
through
see
the use of the Mind Stone. They never get into the specifics of it, but like at the end of what was it, Winter Soldier? I think no, not Winter Soldier.
Civil.
The-
No,
Not Civil War. It was one at the end of one of the earlier ones. It was before.
Age of
It was
Ultron.
the one just before Age of Ultron, I think. The post credit scene showed the two of them in separate cells, and Wanda's like juggling blocks without touching them, and Pietro's like spazzing out, going
Yeah.
from one side of the room to the other.
That rings a bell.
And
Yeah.
then at the very last moment, you see Wanda go like, poof, and like all the blocks that she's hovering just detonate, right? So, and there's I think they said something about they were the only survivors up to that point. So, they were using the Infinity Stone. They were specifically the Mind Stone. So they were using that to alter them. So that's the origins of her abilities, but she did come into very close contact with all of the Infinity Stones.
Mhm.
So because everything we saw initially, her powers were simply mind based. She could affect your mind, and she could use her mind to levitate stuff. But she didn't have any reality warping abilities like she seems to now.
If I recall the phrasing correctly, I believe they defined Pietro's is like hyper metabolic something or other, and then hers was,
he's fast, she's weird.
yeah, but hers was like electromagnetic stuff, which is just close enough to being vague enough to being like kind of like, because when you get down, you know this better than I do. Like you get down on a molecular level, everything's atoms, which is electromagnetic kind of stuff. Very vaguely, very loose, very backyard science. Just don't critique me.
I judge you constantly. You know that.
I'm used to it at this point. I have to think that this, and I mean, especially with Pietro coming in on, I think episode 5 it was, and it being a different actor from the X-Men movies, it's like, okay, this is kind of what people had, I think a lot of folks had hoped for, was a, merging of the universes. I mean, I'll go as far as to say, okay, maybe they were dormant mutants, and this, the exposure to the gem accelerated their mutation development or whatever, kind of like with...
to totally see that.
Yeah, how they did with Ryan Reynolds, or how they did with Deadpool in the successful Deadpool movies, not the very first one, where he's like, that guy, not him.
Never happened.
Exactly, yeah, that never happened, and there was only 3 Indiana Jones movies.
And we're still waiting on a Green Lantern film.
God,
did you catch the little sneaky reference there?
Which one?
When they're out trick or treating, and Wanda says that Pietro and the boys can go, get candy, whatever. What does Pietro say to her?
Something did. I can't remember what he said, but I mean, something happened there. But like this is before she threw him.
It was he was using this particular phrase to indicate a positive response, and that particular phrase was kick ass, and then she repeated, kick ass.
That's right. Yes, because the other guy played kick ass, right?
And Evan Peters, who is the Pietro now, he was like his second best friend in the Kick-Ass movies.
Is that what it was?
Yep.
Huh. Okay. I picked up on something about Kick-Ass, but I didn't go back and watch the scene again because I forgot about those movies because the second one came out, but like Jim Carrey was in it, and then he like ran press against it or something like that. He had some kind of like...
Yeah, he was trying to distance himself because everybody was using those naughty guns that are the root of all evil.
Well, I'm not pro or anti. I mean, any more than I would be pro or anti car. I mean, I liked the Animaniacs' take on it. Like, you can have too much of anything, good or bad. I mean, you can have...
drink enough water, it'll kill you.
Exactly, yeah. But then again, there's... the water lobby's not that powerful.
Well, as long as there is corruption in power, and as long as there's government, there will be a place for the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment was not drafted to protect the rights of hunters or...
No, absolutely. There's nothing about hunting. Hunting was just a given. You had, especially, there was no food preservation. You had to hunt within a few days of needing to eat. I mean, and that's just what it is. Now, wow, we kind of fell on the rabbit hole. We're on the edge, clawing back out. But yes, no, I hear you, man. It's like I see a necessity for them. I also see a necessity for reasonable use of, and I don't necessarily want to be in a place where we don't have access to them simply because you see what happens when... gosh, this sounds so...
You're teetering.
I am, and I don't mean to be.
It's okay.
I'm not big on them. I really am not, but at the same time, I understand why we kind of need them because, overreach is a thing. But at the same time, I want to believe that we're not going to need them, I'm a constant ball of contradictions.
Fingers crossed it never happens, but I mean, so far our government has never turned to complete tyranny, and
We had some fans of tyranny.
I don't think that's despite the fact that we're allowed to have firearms. I think it's because we're allowed to have firearms.
Okay, so I look at it like this. They are not one and the same, but I look at whenever you hear about governments, quote-unquote, crushing an attempted coup or whatever, what do they always do first? If the guns are a factor, if the guns are not a factor, this is what they always do first. They always nix communication. They shut down the internet, they shut down Twitter, they shut down Facebook. That's the go-to move right there.
Yep.
Thankfully, we haven't really had that. It is, of course, a possibility, but we haven't had that. When that starts to happen, that should be a big red flag to everybody. Like, wait a minute, this is not just a difference of political opinion, or you know, or foreign policy or tax policy ideas. This is like stopping communication. Why? To suppress the spread of ideas, or to suppress coordination? Now, I've always heard that if you're within like a mile of the president, there's like a wave jamming going on, and there probably should be, you know. But again, I've never been there. I've heard that.
No.
But the Lord, the gun thing.
Well, I personally sleep very well at night knowing that I have the ability to protect myself and my belongings.
Yep.
I also pray every night that I never have to make that decision.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, that's something that you got to live with.
I don't know.
You know, forever.
If it was to protect the family, probably. But if it wasn't, I don't know if I can do it, man. It's just my brain goes to I guess gallows humor. You've seen Dragon Ball Z Abridged, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, they did the Cell saga where it's like what's the kid's name? Gohan fighting Cell, and he says something like, "I happen to be a pacifist" or something like that. Oh, good, a coward patting himself on the back. I'm like, I lean toward that. At least in my head, I think I do. God, I hope I'm never in that situation where I have to make a decision like that. But it's like I don't know if I could do it, man. I understand the necessity and to have the option, because otherwise, you know, you've heard the argument that, you know, if you outlaw guns, only outlaws will have guns. That's kind of what it would be. It's like
criminals don't register their weapons.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, and not to start spitting statistics, but literally over 99% of all firearms that are ever used in violent crimes are either stolen or purchased on the black market.
Yeah.
You know, so though it might not be the intent of the gun control enthusiasts, the result is that you have an unarmed, vulnerable populace,
not
serving as prey for a criminal class that is now completely undeterred because, you know, right now I don't know everything that's happening in everybody else's mind. For all I know, there could be somebody on the other side of that door, and the only thing keeping them from kicking it in and coming in and, you know, doing what they want is the uncertainty of whether or not I'm packing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And once that uncertainty is gone, crime skyrockets.
Yeah.
We've seen that happen all over the world. And now I don't I don't see any need for any private citizen to have an RPG.
Yeah, there are extremes for sure.
Or a fully functional tank. I don't think you should be able to go down to Walmart, you know, and buy a completely decked out F-18 Hornet, you know, with full avionics and air to surface weaponry. But the Second Amendment is predicated on the understanding that people are basically good, but there are bad ones that need to be, you know, all right, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to be done. All right. A gun is a tool.
Exactly. I completely agree.
It is an inanimate object,
Mhm.
and to imbue it with negative human qualities is just superstitious animism and doesn't belong in the 21st century. A gun is an equalizer. It's something that is as equally effective in the hands of the most yoked out Navy SEAL as it is in the hands of a trained 11-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And that's something that the criminals know, and that's something that the criminals fear. And I think that the criminals should be the only people that do fear that, because if a gun owner is educated and trained as they darn well should be, you know, then you know you're no worse being a gun owner than you are being a car owner or a food processor owner. You know, so that's my rant.
I agree with that. I mean, they are very much something that can be used for good or bad. It depends on the person owning it. I think it was Dave Chapelle who had the bit about the way to solve gun violence is to make guns plentiful, make them dirt cheap, put them out there everywhere, and make bullets $1,000 a round.
That was Chris Rock.
Was it Chris Rock? Chris Rock. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was listening to Dave Chapelle last night, going about a couple things. He was talking about the impeachment stuff and his Netflix issues and whatnot, which apparently have been resolved. But man, we really
in kind of a genius way.
Oh yeah, asked his fans just not to watch it. It was like,
yeah,
it worked.
Asking them, going completely openly saying boycott me.
Yeah.
Here, please, if you're a fan of mine, boycott me. Don't watch this on this platform until they do the right thing.
Yeah. Unexpected, to say the least. I remember when I first saw it, I thought, well, that's not going to work. People are going to.
I admire the hell out of him. Really,
yeah,
I do.
No, I like how he handled it for sure. He played the game and he won.
But yeah, the Chris Rock bit was like, if bullets were that expensive, when you heard about somebody, getting shot in the street, you'd probably think, well, he must have deserved it. Look at this dead guy here. Yeah, what do you think he did? Oh, he must have done something real bad. Somebody spent $50,000 on him. If bullets cost $10,000 a piece, and that would also eliminate what did he say? The crimes of passion.
Yeah.
When you get into an argument with somebody, it's like you know what? I'm gonna get a second job, and I'm gonna start saying, and I'm gonna be back in 5 to 6 months, and I'm gonna bust that cap in you.
There you go. We really fell off with WandaVision. We want to try and pull it back over there.
Well, where do we need to go? Well,
I mean,
we left it talking about
outside.
Quicksilver.
Yeah, outside of the world, we know that behind the scenes or whatever, in Marvel corporate, they're merging universes, or at least we think they're merging universes, and this seems like the way they're going to go with that.
This is the original tether.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You've got they've got access to the mutants now. I know they got to recast several of them, but it's it's encouraging because kind of wonder what they're going to do next. They're not doing. At least I don't think they're going to do what do you call it? Not Secret War, but Secret Invasion, which is another really popular Avengers storyline.
That's one of those big overarching thing. Yeah.
Scrolls have infiltrated, like evil Scrolls, but the first Scrolls we saw in the Captain Marvel movie they were not.
These the good guys.
Yeah, they were the oppressed. They were the sympathetic characters, but they're supposed to be. I thought they were supposed to be doing something. Secret Wars. I keep saying Secret Wars. Secret Invasion-ish. But now that they've got all the mutants back in the MCU, that's decades worth of stories on top of what they already had. As long as the partnership with Sony holds, unless they just buy Sony too, which they could do.
Well, that means they got the Fantastic Four as well, right?
This is correct. And I actually watched the people started calling it Fan Four Stick, that movie that was not very good at all.
Well, none of them were very good.
Well,
but
the first two, they were okay. This is Fox trying to do something, and they don't want to give up the rights, so they keep making them. And they were
they make them because they have to, otherwise they lose the IP.
Yeah. But that last one, about 2/3 into it, you realize they ran out of time or money because all the problems resolved real quick. It's just really bad dialogue. It's like, something happened here.
I think I might have said this on our last podcast, or maybe the one before that, but I thought there was a huge missed opportunity for a fun little 2-second moment that could have happened in the Black Panther movie.
Mm-hmm.
If we could just say that at some point when, during the storyline, when Killmonger was in Wakanda,
Mm-hmm.
if Captain Rogers had been there, because he at that point he knew completely of the place and was there.
Mm-hmm.
Was I guess an open invite. If they could have found an excuse for the two of them to be just in the same room, like waiting to go into two different directions, just for a minute, just long enough for somebody to walk by with like a pipe or something and ask if anybody in the room has a light, and both of them said no, and then he walks on. Because they were both, Michael B. Jordan and Chris Evans were both the Human Torch. I think that could have been a cute little.
That would have been funny.
And they're not going to have that opportunity again.
No, probably not.
Well, Killmonger's dead, so.
Yeah, but is he?
I've
heard rumblings and rumors and little hints that maybe he's not.
Really?
Yeah.
He got totally stabbed.
Oh, totally got stabbed. But with no armor.
He got stabbed as much as anybody could be stabbed.
Yep. But, we'll see. I don't know. I thought his performance as Killmonger was fantastic. And truthfully, as bad as Fan Four Stick was, he was one of the few bright spots in that movie because he's got charisma. He's a good actor,
He's a great actor. I think
he was also. I've never seen Creed, but he was in Creed, and people are talking like Creed's a fantastic film.
I think he's been a great actor ever since. Oh shoot! Oh no, brain! Don't do this to me.
Suffer.
The Wire.
He was in The Wire.
He was a kid.
I didn't know that.
And he was a kid, and he was killing it then as a child. And he's done nothing but get better.
Well, not to derail or anything, but again, supposedly, tell me if you've heard this too, but WandaVision is supposed to not necessarily crescendo, but it will lead into Doctor Strange 2, which is what I'm really looking forward to. I thoroughly enjoyed Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange. I would love to see, another little winking at the camera. I wouldn't mind if they got Martin Freeman in there with him just for a scene or two, just because.
Because you're a fan of Sherlock.
I like Sherlock. I liked some of their Sherlock. I didn't care for how their series ended. I didn't care for the wrote themselves into a corner a la J.J. Abrams and just kind of okay, we're back and he didn't die kind of thing. It's like you can't just because you throw like 8 different theories up on screen and not really answer the question. That's not the same as resolving the cliffhanger there. But anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, the other scene that did happen, which I thought was hilarious, was when I can't remember his character name. I know he's CIA.
Freeman?
Yeah, Martin Freeman's character name.
Couldn't tell you. No idea.
But anyway, they had
It's
him
not
on.
Ross. Ross is the
They
guy.
had- no, not Ross. Well, is it Ross?
Is it?
Yeah, different Ross, no relation, but yeah, I think his CIA agent Ross. But anyway, he's sitting across the table from Claw, and
You're right. Yes.
so you got Bilbo and Gollum.
That's hilarious.
Yep.
You're right. You're right. Someone made the. Now that you mention it, I kind of get back to it. Yeah, they had something going on with. That was hilarious. Yeah.
Andy Serkis is a funny freaking guy.
He
just
is. Well,
in
I loved his. I never cared about Ulysses Claw, but his portrayal was just hilarious. The whole SoundCloud bit is like, yeah, I could see him totally as a internet DJ. Yeah, see, I like Andy Serkis, but I've never cared for any of the Planet of the Apes stuff, so I've never seen the other movies that came out with him, doing all the mocap and stuff.
Okay.
But his physical acting is phenomenal, man. He can tell a story and take on a character, everything from how they stand to how they move and the way it's brilliant.
The working actors today, I would say that he's among the most malleable. But so now that the hex is expanding,
yeah, I like that. So okay, I was going to ask you about this. What's your take on this? So we've seen that reality can be changed and it can exit the hex and maintain the alterations, like the clothes that the officer or Sergeant Rambo, I think Sergeant, right? Her clothes.
I can't remember her rank, but yeah, I know who you're talking about, Rambo.
Her clothes stayed changed, didn't change back. Vision exits the hex and starts essentially dying again, and starts falling apart. Pieces of him flung back into the hex, and her solution is to expand the hex, which we haven't seen the repercussions of that, because I don't know if she's going to be maxed out, or she's going to be distracted, or she's going to be more angry, or what. But that was different. That caught my attention. Is like, we've seen that she can alter things and they can exist outside of their parameters or the border there, but he looked like he could not. Or maybe anything
that enters the hex is going to be altered enough to not appear out of place. So when Rambo originally entered the hex, it was during the was it the second episode? So it was like the
70s,
Bewitched.
Right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So her attire was altered to appear appropriate for that, and then it was altered yet again when we went to Brady Bunch time. So now she's wearing like the 1970s pantsuit kind of thing, which is when she was expelled, right?
Yeah.
So so things are changed when they entered to not appear out of place, but they're not changed back. But she's not. I thought they were kind of reaching with that. Just because something's made out of Kevlar doesn't mean it's bullet resistant, bulletproof, whatever. It's how the Kevlar fibers are layered against each other.
Yeah. If they're all like aligned like this, it can still pass through, but they have to be interwoven.
And there has to be there's so many layers. There's layer after layer after layer of material. And if you take that Kevlar and make it thin enough so that it looks like a pair of polyester pants, that's not gonna stop a bullet. But I guess they wanted to,
I think
it was a demonstration for effect. I understand the creative license, and it's always. I'm guilty of it so many times, and yet I always find it hilarious when people start nitpicking on things that that could never happen. You know, it's like you're watching a movie about gigantic transforming robots from outer space, and you have this. You have a problem with what this one lawyer says. So. Anywho, yeah, I always criticize people for doing it, and I'm always guilty of it myself.
Yeah.
But that's the engineer in me, I guess.
Yeah. I have to. It's almost. I know this is not the same, even close to the same thing. It's almost like Chekhov's gun. Where is that going to come into effect later? So like, I don't know. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I was very indifferent up to like episode 4 or 5, but it's it's great what they've done. They've given them basically here's 2 movies worth of runtime, go.
Mm-hmm.
And this being as much as I have enjoyed it so far has made me really look forward to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier next month. That one I really want to see.
I think. Well, this is the litmus test, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the first episodic thing that they've started putting out on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that watched just the first episode or the first 2 episodes and then decided this is bad and walked away,
they're missing it. Yeah, because this is definitely going to
I don't know. I don't think you can count the MCU out that easily, because they've already proven that they've got some good judgment and some foresight working for them. That
they're playing they've got the long game.
Very few production companies have done it as well.
Yeah. They're at one point, what was their biggest competitor? Of course, DC Comics or DC EU, or whatever you want to call it, hasn't fared as well, and because they follow totally different formulas. They're sticking to the old school way of Batman Returns, Batman and Robin. We make these little small encapsulated movies that it's just these characters, and get them out kind of episodic every few years, and we'll make our return, and we're good. And then Marvel's going with the whole 20 picture timeline,
mm-hmm.
and we're seeing the benefits of that. That kind of foresight.
Oh yeah.
And in contrast, next month, almost a month from tomorrow, Zack Snyder's Justice League cut, or the Snyder Cut, whatever we're calling it now.
Oh, good segue.
Yeah, so it's totally planned. Is going to debut on HBO Max, I think it's called. And I didn't hate Justice League. I saw the problems with it. I saw a lot of various scenes I thought that were rushed. Various scenes I thought they dumbed down for whatever reasons. Cyborg and Superman talking about their toes hurting or whatever. I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of a boss fight, basically, they're making my toes hurt joke.
Mm-hmm.
Like, guys, okay, are you trying to humanize the CG face Superman somewhere? I don't know. I also have to wonder is what we're going to see in this. Are we still going to have? We're still going to have creepy non-mustache CG face for his scenes, because that's still gonna. It's still not going to work. I mean, when he's like, look or whatever, his mouth is off kilter to the rest of his. It's just, it doesn't work. Your brain.
It was almost like he could turn his head and then his face would follow half a second later.
Now maybe they'll fix it. I don't know.
But I mean, the problems with Justice League started well before they even started filming with Justice League. They went too big too soon.
I still believe that
they didn't have enough of the individual characters getting their own Didn't even have to be origin stories, just had to be an
Established.
introduction to the character for the audience. I think there should have been a sequel to Man of Steel. I think there should have been a new single serving Batman, Flash, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, all should have happened first. Where the hell is Green Lantern? I can't believe they have an incarnation of Justice League that not only has 6, not 7 members, but Green Lantern isn't one of them.
Yep.
So I thought that much like much like Marvel came out with the Incredible Hulk with the hopes that everybody would forget that Ang Lee Hulk movie ever happened.
Yeah, it's all reboot, man. You gotta do it sometimes.
I thought that there would be another Green Lantern film that, just first one never happened. No, it didn't happen.
Hey, it didn't work.
But they did the same problem with Green Lantern.
Mm-hmm.
They put him up against Parallax, first film. Come on.
Parallax was not. Yeah, no.
And they did Parallax totally.
Oh, it was a far cloud. He was Galactus.
Yeah.
It was Galactus. It was Galactus from the second Fantastic Four movie where he's just a cloud over the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, guys, if you're gonna do a big bad, you can't chicken out halfway through. You gotta put a big bad up there. You gotta put a world-eating ego up there.
Yeah. Well, that was it. That was interest. They had an interesting take on Hector Hammond because there was originally no relation between I almost called him Galactus because of you. Between Parallax and Hector Hammond. Hector Hammond got his abilities in a totally different way. I had no problem with him changing the origin of Hector Hammond, but he should have been up against Hector Hammond for the first film.
Mm-hmm.
If he was going to be up against a single villain and they wanted to go with Hector Hammond, fine. They could have gone a number of different ways. But I mean, it should have stayed on Earth, and it should have been one baddie, one bad big bad boss, and leave yourself somewhere to go. So just like they did Parallax with the first Green Lantern movie.
Doomsday.
First Justice League movie, boom, they're unleashing Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
you got Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
With all the minions of Darkseid at his beck and call, and too much, too soon.
Yeah. It's like you got a glimpse of Thanos in Guardians 1. I think it was. And it was, another 3 years before you saw him again? And even then, he was in the background.
The first glimpse of Thanos was the post-credit scene in Avengers.
Yeah.
But he didn't say a word. All he did was turn his head and smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it a court death? Is that the phrase?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's totally different philosophies. Or I guess maybe different focuses. I mean, with Marvel, it's like, again, it seems like all the praise is due to Kevin Feige. And there isn't an inverse over at DC.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like they just throw people out there. In the news recently, it's been Joss Whedon. He and I'm going to say the CEO, maybe it's not the CEO, but one of the big wigs over at DC have been accused by the guy who played Cyborg, Ray Fisher, I think his name is.
Mm-hmm.
Who I love Cyborg's. I love Ray Fisher, the guy who plays. I loved his rendition in Justice League. I thought it was fantastic. But to hear about some of the stuff that went on behind the scenes, and then some of the stuff that may have been going on behind the scenes in other projects with Whedon over the years, is I always try and say separate the art from the artist, because someone's gonna get up there and say something stupid you don't like. That doesn't mean you can't like the movie. Doesn't mean you can't like the music or whatever they've done. But that one hurt, because Joss Whedon was one of those guys that, fan campaign got behind after Firefly, and they got a movie out of it, and he's done a bunch of other stuff. I never cared for Buffy, never cared for Dollhouse or whatever the other things he made, but Firefly and Serenity have always been near and dear. I love those things, and when he did Avengers 1 and 2, I was like, this is fantastic. And then I heard he had conflict with the studio, which didn't surprise me because you had the likes of Ike Perlmutter over there, who is a horrible racist monster who should not be associated with the company anymore. And then you hear about, hey, Joss Whedon may be kind of a dick. You're like, what? I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. So you got to separate the art from the artist. Not easy to do.
Especially in today's political climate.
Yeah.
I got to think that so many times somebody gets a job simply because they share ideologies with the, the quote unquote woke left. Yeah.
I always go back to J.K. Rowling when I think about stuff like that. It's like she was the darling of the left until she wasn't. And I don't pretend to know all the ins and outs of all that stuff. I mean, it's easy. What do they call it? Doom scrolling. It's easy to fall down that stuff, man. Especially with 2020 alone, just in that year alone, with all the stuff that happened, it's easy to fall down that. And there is enough misinformation and enough intentionally misleading information to make you go, am I reading what's really what's in this world of alternate facts? Am I reading something reliable, or am I reading propaganda? And it's not always easy to tell the difference.
Yeah, and it happens on. I mean, I didn't mean to focus on only the left. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty open about the fact that I tested out as a what did the thing say? A pragmatically centric libertarian.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like you've got the dangers of either side, and just for the sake of conversation, I'll say you got the super far left, double woke, and you've got the crazy far right, not RNC, but not the GOP, but the GQP. Even today, are like, QAnon's telling me that we can go do this kind of stuff. It's like, God, can we get all those fringes, put them together, and make them debate just for entertainment's sake?
It ticks me off that they both use the same freaking arguments against each other. Mm-hmm. They immediately start accusing. Each side accuses the other side of doing the same thing.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, dude, that's an old school strategy. Is like accuse your opponent of that which you are guilty of, or how the phrasing is.
And that's right out of the. There's some book, something like the something playbook. I've never actually read it, but I heard about it. Mm-hmm. And there's things in there like always accuse your opponent of that which you're guilty. Mm-hmm. The other thing is like never let a good crisis go to waste. Yeah. Always politicize a crisis for your own means. And then condemn. Unless your opposition politicizes it first, in which case you get to take the moral high ground and say, I can't believe you would politicize such a tragedy.
Oh, it's like we were talking about guns earlier. It's the whole gun thing. Oh, it's too soon to talk about gun legislation like in a week, like 2 days after Sandy Hook. Like, well, when is a good time? Because we've got something obviously going on here.
Yeah. Are we going to go back to guns?
Not meaning to.
We left that 45 minutes ago.
We did, well, I mean, that's enough. I mean, it should be resolved now, right? That's just it's fixed. But then you got
we're solving the world's problems.
Exactly. Here, yes, that's our goal. But no, man, it's like you're right. It's like never let a good crisis go to waste, and it's like, is that comparable to strike while the iron's hot kind of thing? I mean, public awareness, that matters.
I think striking while the iron's hot as a phrase, I think, is more just neutral. Mm-hmm. That's more general purpose.
Yeah.
It's not it's not intentionally polarizing.
I agree. Yeah.
People towards or against any particular issue. And like I said half an hour ago, I don't really think private citizens need to be carrying rocket launchers on in their pickup trucks. Mm-hmm. But
there is
as far when when the nitpicking about, okay, how many rounds in a magazine should be allowed? Okay, it only takes one cartridge to, end somebody's life. So what does it matter whether you got one or whether you got 30?
That always
and the senator that was saying that there's never any reason, for purposes of self-defense, there's never any reason for you to need more than 4 or 5 rounds in a magazine.
What's that based on?
I always go back to the Rodney King riots, and I say, okay, you're saying that it's never necessary for personal home protection to have more than 4 or 5 rounds. Tell that to that Korean grocery store owner who
they locked down and protected their entire block.
From what I could tell from the aerial footage, because they had helicopters going everywhere.
Yeah.
This was a 2-story building where on the first floor was a grocery store, and on the second floor, that's where this man and his family lived. And he spent the entire time on his roof with a semi-automatic AR-style rifle. And as the riots progressed, it's morbidly hilarious. If you did a top-down view, you could basically put your compass point on this dude's grocery store and draw a circle around it, and in that circle, everything was safe. In that circle, there were other businesses, there were other homes, and none of them were looted or destroyed. Whereas outside of that range, everything's getting doors kicked in and buildings burned down, and what would have happened? I mean, it would have been like a horror movie if he had fired off the 4th or 5th round that he was allowed to have, and then all of a sudden had to stop and get 5 more cartridges, pop the magazine, load them, and then start again. The people out causing that wanton destruction would have eventually gotten wise to say, hey, after he fires off that 4th or 5th round, that's our opportunity. And I mean, once they get on the ground floor, now what? I mean, like I said, his whole family was on that 2nd floor.
Yeah.
And you got a whole city full of rioters with their what was the Game of Thrones expression with once they've got their blood up.
yeah, you get them riled up. No,
Cersei. That was during the Blackwater, the assault on King's Landing, where Cersei was talking to Sansa and saying like, "Oh, all these women in here, they're not going to have a fun time, because once when the soldiers have their blood up, bad things happen."
Yeah. I hear you. I think the magazine thing it's misdirection. It's misdirection. Yeah. There's not a reason. I don't believe there's a reasonable person out there that would not be open to the discussion of, and I'll use the term reasonable again, reasonable regulation and control of whatever. But as we've stated, and as is well established, criminals don't follow those regulations.
Right.
So anyway, God, we keep getting on guns. I didn't want to talk about guns. It's not the point. We keep doing it. I don't mean to. So yeah.
Next time you steer this conversation towards guns, I swear I'm going to shoot you. See what I did there? That's comedy.
I like it.
That's irony. That's dramatic irony.
Very nice, very nice. So yes, Joss Whedon may be a terrible person. Not sure. WandaVision, better than expected. Snyder Cut, probably not that great, but we'll see.
You know what?
How much the story can they really change?
I'll say this: they're advertising it right.
Oh yeah.
When they're showing the ads for the Snyder Cut, I don't think there was maybe one scene out of 10 that they've spliced into this ad that was actually in the original movie. They're using all unseen footage for the ads. So that's going to get people interested.
All right, so yes, Snyder. We'll see. I don't even know. I put it on there. I don't know if I want to talk about the impeachment stuff. Do you have a power?
I don't.
Okay, let's go.
It's over for one thing, so
Yeah.
that's that.
So game stonks. No real update I'm aware of.
No, you're not an internet billionaire now.
No.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't be talking to me if you were.
It'd be nice to have some money, but at the same time, some of the the questionable shenanigans that have happened since the onset of this have been like, huh. So
Very illuminating.
Oh yes, the market got shut down because the hedge funds were in danger, and
Yeah.
when they came back up, the average Joe couldn't interact like they could before. All they could do was sell. They couldn't buy them. Like, well, hey, what's this crap?
Yeah.
It's almost as if the market's not geared toward the average Joe.
Nope.
Oh,
No, they're basically saying, hey, you can't manipulate the market like that.
that's our job.
Only we can manipulate the market like that.
Exactly, man. That's
The same people that are saying it's free and open, no regulation, no regulation.
Yeah.
What happened? Regulate those guys.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. They're doing the exact same thing the hedge funds have been doing. They've been betting on
Regulate the shit out of them.
been betting on the change of price, and all of a sudden, no, you can't do that. That's hurting us. It's like, and then the way the industry, I guess, circled the wagons around them is like, ooh, that's some jacked up stuff right there, man. What happened to the free market? Let's see.
But as far as the impeachment thing goes, I mean, it's over,
Yeah.
and
It's now to the private courts, not private courts. I'm trying to say it's all for the court system for whatever happens next, if anything happens next, and that's probably enough on that. I think.
Well, one thing that I kind of wanted to do, like since the start of this, I said that like once per podcast we should do like a like a recommended YouTube channel. Make that a
Sure.
so.
You got one?
I'm gonna go ahead and kick that off.
Go for it.
So we should have done this, a couple podcasts ago, but the YouTube channel of the week or fortnight, or we do this every 2 weeks. YouTube channel of the fortnight that I'm going to recommend. I decided to go comedic. I'll choose a different venue next time. But my suggestion this time around, the name is Ryan George, and I'm gonna learn enough about posting videos on YouTube so that I can put a link in the description.
Mm-hmm.
But near as I can tell, he's just a funny, talented kid that what makes, I think, his channel good is that all of his videos are pretty short. They're all less than 5 minutes. Most of them are like 3 to 4 minutes. But he's a good writer. He's got good timing, and I know he does other stuff besides his own channel. If you're familiar with like the Screen Rant.
Mm-hmm.
He's got this series on that called Pitch Meeting, and I'll put a link in the description for that as well.
Okay.
His one recurring thing he's got on his own channel is the first guy to ever, and then fill in the blank.
Like the first guy to ever figure out what poison ivy was.
like the first guy to ever open a zoo,
Ah,
right?
okay.
Or the first guy to ever eat dessert, you know, the first guy to ever get married, and then the subsequent one I think was first guy to ever get divorced, and he did that. He did that with a another YouTuber whose name escapes me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably recommend her channel at some point in the future because she's pretty creative and funny as well.
Okay.
What was her name? Oh, anyway, I'll look it up later. So yeah, Ryan George, check it out.
Okay.
All of his videos are, I would say, completely inoffensive, good for the masses, and easily digestible in their small, 3 to 5 minute servings. And then check them out and let us know what you think.
I've got one. This channel started as it may still be a video game channel. The channel is called Sir Swag, so I mean, there's your credibility right there. But they have also shifted to a independent news channel. I find it interesting. Okay. Their long-running news series is News Without the Bullshit, and it goes through and recounts, depending on whatever format they use. They might have like they might recap a month, they might recap 6 months, but they'll go back and cover things. And it's one of those things where I like when they cover things like American politics, because the person's Australian and they have no stake in it. So it's like, here's what I see, go, kind of thing. But there's a catch with this. The guy doesn't usually do voiceover. He does it like the what's the Microsoft voice? Like you type out text, it will say the text for you in the robotic voice. That's the voice they use. So that's gonna be off-putting to some folks. But I've been watching this channel for about maybe 2 years now. So I mean, I think it started back when Overwatch came out, because they used to do Overwatch compilation things, or maybe it was, I'm pretty sure it was Overwatch. Some kind of game. So they show game footage with text to speak over it. But I find their coverage of news stories at least interesting when I can't stomach the CNN or the Fox News, and I want to still keep up on things, especially from an outside the U.S. perspective on things. I like that. It's refreshing because I'm pretty sure there's not as much bias there. I won't say it's bias free because that's impossible, but I do like to see a perspective that I don't think is necessarily being paid off on one side or another. Like I used to I'm still watching from time to time, but Philip DeFranco is another YouTube guy who does a bunch of news stuff, but I get the feeling he leans left more than anything.
I've been watching Philip DeFranco for over a decade.
Yeah,
and
so what's your take?
I think that going back to his SourceFed days, and then I really admire him for basically buying his name back. Going back to basics as far as that goes. But in the last few years, I've just seen him really I mean, he used to be so much of a facts first, and then it was facts first, and then that was number one, and then number two was, let me know what you think about it. Let's see a discussion happen.
Yeah.
Right. And over the last few years, I've seen it become more and more just opinion, specifically his opinion, which is his channel. He can do what he wants with it, but it's it's like everything going on with Twitter and Facebook, freezing and sometimes even deleting accounts of people who always seem to be on the right. It's a private company, so you're allowed to do what you want. But if you're going to do that, then you shouldn't be able to promote yourself as a platform for all free speech, because you're not.
Well, it's dangerous. Politics work. This probably better than I could ever explain it. But politics work on a pendulum. At least in the States, we have a two-party system. Supposedly, there's a third party out there, or a couple of third parties. don't know how you can have a third party when there's more than one, but the point is, two major power players, and historically, power swings back and forth between the two. It's just how it works. Love it or hate it, that's just what it is. So I'm of the perspective that, okay, you're going to have a little bit of either side, and one may go too far one time, one way, one may go too far the other way, but in the next election cycle, it'll balance itself out through an almost, forgive the phrase here, open market kind of system where the people say, no, we don't like this, and they're going to change out all these people. That typically happens. I mean, I truly expect another 4 years of, Republican-run stuff, and it didn't happen. So the pendulum swung back a little bit faster this time. I don't necessarily think it's going to stay for 4 to 8 years this time either. I think we'll see another swing here soon. The benefit of all this is that people getting out and voting. That's always the thing. I remember in our lifetime we've had record lows at the polls, and people complain for 4 years, and record lows at the polls, and they complain for another.
It's really kind of disgusting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
just how few people vote versus how many people complain.
And the whole YouTube thing in general, when they started saying you can't talk about certain topics, I understand why. Misinformation is a dangerous occurrence. But when you can't talk about a school shooting that's taken place because it's not advertiser friendly, then you need to reevaluate your model because
you've jumped the shark at that point.
Yeah. So, at the same time, I despise a lot of things certain people in political power have said in the last 2, 4, 8, 12 years. I think there's reckless sometimes. I'm not putting that on one person, but a lot of them are very reckless. I do not like the notion of deplatforming. Alex Jones is a person as close to hating someone or despising someone as I can get. I feel that way about Alex Jones. He should not be deplatformed. I don't like that.
I look at Alex Jones the way I look at a pair of clown shoes. I mean,
Yeah.
But I'm of the opinion, and this is just me, is that keeping an open platform for everybody is the best way of revealing the psychos.
It does let them fly their stupid flag, and okay, there they are. It's like, not to bring back City of Heroes. Did we ever talk about the 1 star of stupid?
No.
You could right click somebody and you could go at the bottom and add note, and you could give her like a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 star. Makes it easy to find your friends across different characters. I had the 1 star of stupid that would give people. I was like, okay, this person's an idiot.
I remember that now.
Yes, the 1 star of stupid. You give him 1 star. Oh, watch out for that guy. Just don't go on his team. He's an idiot.
Yeah.
You let.
It's like the most recent thing in my life that applies to this. You ever heard the name Fallon Fox?
Fallon Fox. Is that
MMA fighter?
No, I don't know this one.
Have I talked about Fallon Fox before?
I thought we were talking about the Balloon Boy kid, but that's Falcon, right? Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
So, I've always been. I'm going back to the UFC #1. I used to go to my local video store and rent the VHS release every time a new UFC came out. UFC 1, UFC 2, all the way up, into double digits. I watched every single one of them. This is going back to before there were time limits, before there were weight classes.
Weight classes exist for a reason, but go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, I saw one. There was this like 8th level black belt in Taekwondo that was like 95 pounds, and he was up against a 650-pound sumo.
That's not a good idea.
It was a hilarious and exciting fight.
Who won? I think the sumo.
The sumo guy.
I'm about to say, all he's going to do is dip one hand on him. It's over.
The sumo guy was getting his ass wailed on the entire time, and then he finally got a hold of him, put him to the mat, and just laid on him.
Yeah, you can't fight that.
Yeah, but anyway, several years back, the UFC and other MMA organizations started having female bouts, which I can own this. Originally made me uncomfortable. All right.
Yeah,
I was raised. I mean,
I think
no argument, no discussion.
Mhm.
Just flat out, you don't hit girls.
No, I feel the same way.
So, so when I
we're in
first
agreement.
started seeing mixed martial arts with female competitors, it's nothing but watching girls get hit. They're getting hit by other girls, but that's the lizard brain part of me, or whatever is in my in the deepest part of my psyche, was just like something that
Something's
felt
not right. Something's not right. It's
it
supposed
felt
to protect.
it felt
Yeah.
not right. I didn't look at it and say this is wrong. I looked at it and said this makes me uncomfortable. And it I mean, for my own personal critique and my inability to sometimes grow, it took me a good year or so. But eventually I started recognizing them for the athletes and competitors that they were.
Yeah.
And now I enjoy watching women's MMA just as much as the men's. I mean, there's some serious talent there.
Change.
So anyway,
Good.
onto the scene comes Fallon Fox.
Mhm.
No one had ever heard of this person, but they come onto the scene and win the first two. I mean, they've been an amateur for however long, so they finally get first couple of professional fights and win them both very handily.
Mhm.
But upon review, it was easy to see that Fallon Fox was not the better fighter. They weren't. They didn't have better technique. They weren't faster.
Mhm.
They basically just brutalized the opponent. They just overpowered.
Okay.
Well, come to find out, Fallon Fox has only been called Fallon Fox for like the last 3 years, leading up to these fights.
Oh.
So for the first
okay.
first
I got you
32
now.
years, for the first 32 years of their life, they were male.
Oh boy. Okay. Yikes.
And then it was simply a matter of stating that you are transitioning. I think there were a couple of surgeries, and but the point is, you can't wipe out 32 years of natural testosterone, increasing your bone density and muscle mass, and it's really no different than two equal competitors, all things equal between them, except one of them is juicing with anabolic steroids and the other one isn't. So there's these two female fighters that, I mean, they both got brutalized. I think they both ended up hospitalized, and one of them is like not the same. You look at a picture of her face before and after, you can see, I mean, stuff is shifted. So my point is, my point of telling this story is we were talking about deplatforming.
Mhm.
I was speaking to somebody who, and this it's funny. I heard Joe Rogan say the same exact thing. So I don't know if we know some of the same people, but I was speaking to this coworker guy, and he's about as far woke left as you can get, I guess.
Yeah.
At least in my personal experience. So I made the horrible mistake of saying, like, okay, so Fallon Fox is fighting in the UFC, and has been for the last 3 years when he became a woman, and I was chastised for that.
Yeah.
I was chastised because Fallon Fox did not become a woman. Fallon Fox has always been a woman.
So,
and my question was, okay, well, what about 12, 15 years ago when she used her penis and testicles to produce sperm and impregnate the mother of their children? Was she a woman then? Yes. It's like, okay, I really want to thank you for saying that, because with that, I now know that I don't have to take you seriously about anything. That's what deplatforming does. It takes away somebody's ability to reveal how stupid, how evil, how ignorant, whatever. It's like, okay, thanks for saying that, because I don't have to treat you like an intelligent, I don't have to debate you on this anymore. By saying that, you have shown me, I don't. You're nobody whose opinion matters because you're that out of touch.
So let me. I have no interest in devil's advocate, but I try to hear people's perspective on things, which is like patting myself on the back. I'm not trying to do that, but the point of what I'm trying to get to is this. My understanding is that in that conversation, that person, forget that person. Let's take them out of the equation. The understanding that I've come to get is that when they say something to that effect, is that person has come to terms with the internal conflict that they felt the majority of their life. Stay with me on this. So for them to say that this person was always a woman is because they've always had an internal conflict that they've now able to physically reconcile. All that said, on a psyche level, on a gender identity level, that makes sense. However, I know who you're talking about now when it comes to what was it, Fallon Fox? Was that it?
Yep.
I've heard Joe Rogan talk about this kind of thing before, and I don't think I've ever actually thrown a legitimate punch in my life. So I'm not a fighter, but he is, and I've known people of various degrees of skill ability with Taekwondo and everything else, but there seems to be a consensus. First off, in a never underestimate the women, because they are vicious creatures when they're in a fight. But there's also
been there.
But there's also a vast difference between going through puberty as a biological male and with a biological female. And you're right. This individual had 30 some years of physical development from a bio male perspective. They're going to be bigger. Statistically, they're going to be bigger, heavier, stronger, denser bones, and everything else. In fact, there's a part where Rogan, I remember hearing Rogan talk about this, talking about the fists alone, just the size of a man's fist versus the size of a woman's fist of like the same physical stature is dramatic. I mean, this is in no way anti-transition. If people need transition, they need transition. That's fine. They have to make that decision themselves, and society has to be given time to adapt to this. I mean, go back to the early '90s. What was one of the biggest, scariest things I'm not picking on the right, but the right was very anti-gay marriage.
Okay.
Cut to now. Are we even talking about that now? Is it even up for debate in any of the campaigns? No, because society needed time to change. They needed time to adapt. They needed time to look at their own biases and go, hey, I'm saying this because my family or my pastor or my church or my own inherent biases that I grew up with that I didn't even know I had. And they've had time to reflect and go, that was a really shitty way to treat people. People died for this kind of stuff, and what am I doing? I'm keeping people from being together because they want to. What is that? So, I think again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to plant the flag on people need time to change. Society has to have time to adapt, adjust, and reconcile.
No argument.
They have to have time to reconcile their own issues with whatever change is thrown at them. And I don't think this person should be fighting biological females either. I just think you've got a Kawasaki going up against a Model T. It's just not going to happen.
Trump signed an executive order that made so you would no longer allowed biological males to participate in female sports. It was one of the first things that Biden overturned.
Was it really?
Yep.
Oh, that's the thing. That's like the is it the genital panels? Is that what they're looking at for like high school sports?
Yeah.
That is.
I'm remembering another story, and admittedly, I don't have all the details, but it's like I believe this was happening in California, and it involved two kids who, basically they ran track, and both were talented. Both were good, and both were ranked. They both had their state rankings, but their rankings were somewhere in the mid double digits. It's like as freshmen they were the same age, so as freshmen they were like ranked somewhere in the like 60s, 70s. Sophomores they went up like a next group of 10. So as juniors they were ranking somewhere in like the low 40s, which is very admirable. I mean, you can't do that without being just fast as hell.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's.
But they weren't winning. They weren't getting the podium. They weren't winning ribbons. They weren't. They weren't. They were. They were ranked in the 40s, and that was it. So freshman year through junior year, they were, and California is a huge state, so to be state ranked at all, even if you're ranked in the 100, I don't know how far they take the rankings, but even to be ranked in the hundreds is, you got to be really, really good.
Yeah.
Senior year, these two both transitioned.
Oh. Okay.
It's my understanding, their transition was nothing more than them saying that they now identify as female. I don't think there were any.
I've heard about this kind of stuff. Yeah, doing it just to.
I don't think there were any like estrogen or any surgeries or anything.
Hormone therapy.
Nothing was done other than how they presented themselves. They started wearing women's clothes. They started putting on makeup. And they started, using or requesting the use of different pronouns, and that was about it.
Yeah.
So now the two of them started competing in girls' track, where they shattered every single record in every event that they competed in, and every single state-sponsored meet that happened that they went to. The best anybody else could hope for was to come in third. Every race that these two were in, they were coming in first and second. So you had high school girls, seniors that had been, struggling their entire high school career to get to that level of competitiveness, and now the best you can hope for is the bronze medal.
Yeah, I mean, earlier, unbeknownst to this topic, throughout, weight classes exist for a reason. In no way do I want it to sound like I'm like, yeah, well, men are just better than women. That's not at all what I'm saying. Not at all. But there's a diversification there for a reason. If you put the NBA in the WNBA, I mean, how's it going to go? If you put we
were talking about Chapelle earlier. He's got just about the funniest bit. I'm sorry to interject like this, but
fine, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this was on his last Netflix special where he's talking about, like, what if LeBron James started identifying as a woman? Would he still continue to play in the NBA? Or would he have to switch over to the WNBA where he would score 850 points a game?
I mean, I don't know. It's I mean, again, I'm not trying to disparage anyone, but there has to be a reasonable, rational examination of all this stuff. It's like, okay, people should be allowed to do whatever they need to do to feel like they're not wrong internally. As long as
Shine on, you crazy diamond.
As long as you're not hurting anybody else. That's the important part.
Exactly. There you go.
Right there.
Got
You
ya.
can't hurt anybody else. I I don't care for professional sports. Don't watch them. I just don't. I don't. I mean, I hear about things when they happen, like the Super Bowl. I know Tom Brady won another one and whatever. But at the same time, I don't want to disparage like the women's sports from the men's sports to say it's lesser. It's just it's different. Again, I got a buddy who's in martial arts, been doing martial arts 30 some years. He said some of the baddest competitors out there are the women. And when they're going at it, you don't get in the way. I mean, obviously, you wouldn't get away from a match anyway, but still, they are just incredible. But they're not going...
simply stating that there are biological differences between men and women is not a sexist thing to say.
It's not. It's empirically true. You can prove there are biological differences. I mean, I can get kind of fat, but I can't lactate. Well, I mean, I could with enough hormones, but I don't want to.
So why get offended by saying?
Truthfully, I'm a little afraid. I don't want to be the target of a cancel culture movement. It's like that's. First off, I'm not advocating anything that I think would bring that up on. I hope not. I'm not. I genuinely try to go through life without hurting anyone, and including offending. If I disagree with someone, okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean that like passive aggressive. I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'd rather have a conversation and talk about it and try to find even the smallest bit of middle ground and go forward from that. Because the truth of the matter is my opinion versus their opinion. They're both just opinions. I can't make my way right or their way right. It's just how we see things, and it's better to have a conversation than to have a fist fight over, God, who knows what, tax reform or whatever. I mean, and it happens. People lose their minds. They sell their identity on their political opinion or their religious opinion or whatever. And it's like, and anything that is not in line with that opinion is the enemy. And it's like, that is dangerous practice, because those political parties, political opinions, those religious opinions, they can all be swayed by someone looking to gain from that political power. I mean, Five Iron Frenzy had a new album come out last month, and some of it talks about how...
Can you hear the bells are ringing?
One of their songs, I forget the name of the song, but talks about how you won't... I won't get the phrasing right, but it basically says you want the followers, but not the pacifists. You want the, you want to use their numbers to increase your bottom line, basically. So they align certain ideals to cater toward. Not picking on Chick-fil-A, but Chick-fil-A is a perfect example. They appeal to the Bible Belt Christian because they're not open on Sunday, and they promote certain ideals. When at the end of the day,
they just make some bomb ass chicken sandwiches.
They're hawking chicken, man. They're selling chicken, and to appeal to a wider market, to a specific demographic, very effectively, I'll add. Because remember, I think at one point there was like a canceled Chick-fil-A day, and it was like a record sales for them. Because the word got out. It's like, oh, this is an attack on my freedom as an American and my truth and my beliefs in Jesus. So I'm going to go and buy 6 sandwiches.
It also has something to do with the fact that, when I'm going through the drive-through at Chick-fil-A, the person at the window treats me like I'm like their favorite cousin that they haven't seen in 3 years.
Yeah.
Whereas when I go through the drive-through at just about any place else, not to pick on McDonald's, but let's say McDonald's, the person that I'm dealing with, they treat me like like they're at a high school reunion and I stole their girlfriend.
Is it like this? Is it like this? What?
Yeah.
Big Mac. Okay, yeah. Go next window. It's,
I had a worker when I was handing her my credit card. She took it, and then when it was her turn to pass stuff to me, she had my drink, a straw, my credit card, and some napkins all in the same hand. And I'm like, I can't get all that. Something's gonna fall.
Yeah.
I got to decide what's to fall. So I went and very carefully I pulled the napkin. I made it apparent that I was only grabbing the napkins, and I pulled those out, and I set them down, and then went back and pulled the credit card out, and I figured, okay, the drink and the straw I can get together. And as I'm doing that, I hear, and I could tell, that wasn't a passive noise. That was for me.
That was like they were growling at you.
Yeah.
They were socially growling at you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
man,
I mean, I don't need politics in my drive-through dinner.
I just want waffle fries. You know,
I actually don't care for them
really
as much. Yeah, I mean they're a novelty as far as I'm concerned, but damn, they make a good chicken sandwich.
They do. I missed their. They had a chicken salad sandwich I really enjoyed. The ones right here, they stopped carrying it. But yeah, man, it's one of those things. Just like I made the joke, like a lot of other people. It's like, hey, you know, let Chick-fil-A or Amazon, you know, distribute the vaccine. It'll be done in a weekend.
I think it was Ralphie May said, "Hey, who here sat at a Chick-fil-A drive-through for about 20 minutes before they realized it was Sunday?"
Oh gosh.
Starts calling. Hey, what you doing in there, Chick-fil-A? y'all in there making some of them bomb-ass chicken sandwiches? R.I.P. Ralphie.
Yeah, I remember Ralphie. I remember watching him on The Last Comic Standing.
He came in second.
He lost to Dat Fan, didn't he? Dat Fan was terrible. Dat Fan did the same routine like 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good the first time, but it's like, dude, you didn't.
I think Gary Gulman said it best on the episode where they were doing the roasts.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, Dad, we get it. Your mom talks funny.
There it is. Yeah, it's an entire act.
So this has been the JPEX podcast for February 17th, 2021.
I've been Jason.
I've been Pete. I will see you next time.
Bye.